Zain, you managed one of Naheed Nenshi's 3 successful mayoral campaigns, and you were key to him winning the NDP leadership. But this poll found that under his leadership, the party would lose 12 seats if an election were held today. That support for the New Democrats has slipped in Calgary and in Edmonton, where the party has been strongest. So why do you think this is happening?
I think there's a couple of reasons, right? And if I'm the New Democrats, I don't, panic about this poll, but I take it seriously. I think the first fact is that Naheed Nenshi has not done this before. Mayoral politics he was used to, and frankly, he was used to governing. So you got two things that he has not necessarily been accustomed to, which is A, being in opposition, and B, partisan politics. And you're seeing some growing pains out of that. I also feel like there's, not necessarily been a series of communications about one specific issue, barring the last couple of months, I would say, on the healthcare scandal, that really construct a narrative that the NDP are trying to build. So without that and the constant storytelling that is required, that no fact, even in the most obvious sense, is self-evident in politics, that you always have to tell a story about it, I think the NDP might be finding themselves where they are right now, at least when focusing on their side of the ledger. I suspect we're going to do the other side in a bit.
Well, we're going to focus on Nenshi for the most part because the story of Smith has been told by CBC up until this point pretty thoroughly. So let's stay with that, and I'll stay with you, Zain, because you mentioned the healthcare scandal. I mean, Nenshi's been given a lot to work with, right? He's got that, the government facing a scandal, the premier is softening the ground for a referendum on separation, and this poll found separation is not a popular idea with Alberta.
Yes.
If he can't break through with those issues, what is he waiting for? What does he need in order to break through?
Well, I'd say the separation issue is probably at its infancy as it relates to both people fundamentally understanding what it is and, frankly, seeing the scope of the threat. Currently, the 25 to 30%, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong, Rob, the number that stands in support of it is relatively
28.
Small. Yeah, 28. Okay, so as the voices get louder, which I believe was the core construct of the poll, that there's a deepening in that sentiment, even if that number hasn't increased, you're going to see opportunity for the NDP, for whatever the no campaign of separatism creates. So I think that issue is at its infancy. On the healthcare issue, I still believe there's a there because this is a massive scandal. This is a multi-chapter scandal. But there's two things. Number one, I think they have to figure out how to tell their story about this scandal in a way that is simple, clean, and less than 30 seconds, which is not always easy to do. And B, I think there needs to be a human side to the scandal that gets added to it, which is, okay, big scandal, what does it mean around your wait times, your surgeries, what you're paying as a taxpayer? So I still think there's more to mold there. And I think they'll have some opportunity, hopefully, over the course of the summer, heading into the fall sort of thing. But I go back to my refrain.
Yeah, let me get Amber in here first.
Don't panic. Yeah.
Amber, what's your take on why Nenshi can't seem to break through, even really on those issues that are, I mean, you would think apparent winners for an opposition?
Well, Zain makes some great points. I think Nenshi's having a very difficult time punching through, also due to the external issues that we're seeing, having the Trump threats and all of the issues that we've had to deal with, tariffs. It has been hard for opposition leaders. And I think with having a record as a mayor, it is a double-edged sword because you have name recognition. But, there are issues with the record, right? When you think about the property tax hikes Calgarians faced, and we saw at the NDP convention, he focused a lot on his time leading through the flooding that we saw in Calgary, which is now over 10 years ago. So we need some fresh instances. I think Nenshi can punch through. The fact that they have the by-election set, that should help, I think, get his name out there more and hearing what they're on. But sort of as people that watch politics a lot, I don't even hear a lot from Nenshi. I haven't really been seeing a lot of NDP reaction. I think when you mentioned issue, I feel like he almost overplayed his hand where he was calling for resignations right out of the gate, even before the details of things have been revealed. So I think tactically he's made a few missteps, but as we approach those by-elections, perhaps he'll have a better platform being in the legislature. But as of now, issues aren't really landing. I don't think they're.
You mentioned how long he's been around. First elected in 2010. Could it be that people are getting tired of hearing his voice and his perspective, Zain?
I think Amber makes an interesting point around the flood being 10 years ago, because I think there's 2 points there. Number one is the core point that it was a decade plus ago. But number two, it was a very Calgary specific thing. If you didn't live through the floods with Nenshi as your mayoral leader or your civic leader, you probably don't even have that emotional tethering. And you're probably seeing some of that, translate to Edmonton, where you suspect the NDP to be just as strong. Well, they've weakened a bit. And that story of who Nenshi is, despite all his urban progressive credentials, which should play extremely well in Edmonton, just has not been told. So I think in certain areas, I would be lying to say that there is not a bit of Nenshi fatigue, but I think more so there's a Nenshi ceiling that has not been reached in areas where the story just has not been told, or that emotional connection has not been necessarily engineered in a similar way.
This poll actually shows about 10% of those sampled haven't made their mind up about Nenshi yet, so there is room to grow, to Zain's point. I guess ultimately, just about a year out from him being selected as leader, Amber, I know Zain's not going to answer this or wouldn't want to, or I know what he would say, but I'll ask you, do you think the NDP membership made a mistake in picking Nenshi as leader?
Well, it's not up to me because I'm definitely not a member of that party, but I would say that they're probably looking for more substance now. Like, it's time to start putting forward some policy agenda. What are they going to be keeping the UCP accountable on beyond these couple of issues? If the NDP want to be a government in waiting again, they really have to step it up and have their full range of policy solutions, not just on a couple of issues. And I'm not seeing a lot out of that communications arm to really show that they have been listening. On the UCP side, the Premier sort of has been listening to all sorts of groups beyond, like the regular go-to business group. She's listening to the grassroots. This evening, I'm attending a massive political fundraiser. I think 2,000 tickets were sold. So I think it would be interesting to see, what the NDP are offering, and maybe if they could elevate a few policy issues that would maybe translate into the fundraising, because I think at this point the UCP are out 3-1.
Getting tight for time, so I want quickly, first from you, Amber, and then Zain. If you're advising Danielle Smith and you're looking at these polling numbers, a C projection in this poll of 61 for the UCP, 26 for the NDP, are you saying it won't get better than this, Premier? Figure out a way to justify it and pull the trigger on an early election. Would you advise her to do so, Amber?
Well, at this point, I don't really see an urgent need to call an election. She does have 2 years left in the mandate, and there's still a lot of big promises that she has to deliver on. And
okay, I got to get Zain in here. We're getting really tight. Zain, you worried about it?
If I was advising her, she'd be silly not to consider it at this moment, but she's also thrown the separation question on the table, which we've seen what happens when you throw events into the mix. They can actually not go against you, not for you, even if it looked like a slam dunk to help your side.
Maybe she uses that as justification for calling an election, and she sides with those who want Alberta to stay in Canada, and she wins another majority. Just throwing it out there. Got to wrap it up. I got the last word. Really nice talking to you two.